In this video, I'd like to give you some tips and tricks how to update an unsupported macOS on old Macs so that you don't end up like this. So if you are running an unsupported macOS on old Macs, there are a few important things that you should consider and that I'd like to talk about in this video. First, switch off the automatic updates. Just go to the settings, go to general and then to updates, system updates, and switch them off. The same with beta updates, because if your Mac just updates itself to a new version, it may end up like this, because maybe there's an update of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher or KDK or whatever needed. We'll talk about that later in the video. Second, don't be too impatient and don't jump the updates, okay? Here I have various old Mac models. Whenever a new update is coming out, I'll install that and test it on all my different Mac models ranging from 2011 up to 2017. But that takes time and I'd like to test it thoroughly, so I don't give you a thumbs up if there's anything not working or might break your Mac. So please give me some days to test this, and then I release a video and can tell you, do you need anything? Do you have to take care about anything? Or are there any Mac models where you shouldn't install the new update due to this and that? And the third thing is obviously how to update the Mac correctly. What is the best procedure not to run into issues like here where you get with a stuck progress bar? And that is what I'd like to talk about in this video. If you have seen my tutorial how to install macOS on unsupported Macs, I basically recommend the USB drive method to install it on unsupported Macs, because the root patches are automatically applied and you don't need to install them afterwards. But since macOS 14.1.2 and macOS 14.2 has the same issue, if you're using the USB drive method to update a macOS that's already on that unsupported Mac, many Macs end up like this. That happened with my MacBook Pro 2012, and this is a MacBook Air 2013, and it has the same issue. And that is due to that automatic root patching that happens during installation, because this bar is right now stuck in front of loading the graphic drivers. And then there's a kernel panic. All that happened behind that black Apple screen here. If you switch on verbose mode, you will see that. So why does that happen? It happens because we don't have the KDK, the Kernel Debug Kit, installed for 14.2. A lot of technical stuff, but just down to that, if you're using the USB drive method for updating a Mac, you just need one simple trick to complete it, but otherwise don't panic, okay? That might happen with your Mac as well, that you're stuck at that progress bar. And the trick that you need is already here described in my video. You need the safe mode just for that part of the installation, because with safe mode the graphic drivers are not loaded and then the install completes. And the good thing is the root patches are applied automatically as well, and the next boot you don't need the safe mode anymore, and then this should be fine. And we can just try that here on my MacBook Air 2013. I just plug the USB drive in, we'll switch it off, and then I restart it. Safe mode is easy. You select the OpenCore bootloader. When I switch it on, I keep the Alt or the Option key pressed, and then you see the Apple boot selector. All that is also described in detail in my tutorial. You have the installer on the USB drive, and you have the EFI boot. That is the brand new OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.3 that you need for Sonoma 14.2. So when I select this, I come to the OpenCore boot selector, and then I have two choices. Again, install macOS Sonoma. That is the installer that I started the first time if I would select this right now, it would start all over again with the install. So we just choose Macintosh HD, that is the name of my hard disk, whatever your name is, but then there is that progress bar stuck about 1/3. So I now keep the Shift key pressed and select this option, and now it starts in safe mode. And you see the progress bars coming up, and let's see if that helped without loading the graphic drivers in between to continue the setup, the update to macOS 14.2, and then we can check with the OpenCore Legacy Patcher if the root patches are already automatically applied. And now you can see that there is a 1% completed writing below that progress bar. This increased now to 3%, so the issue where the MacBook had a kernel panic and froze has been solved simply with keeping Shift pressed. So whenever you update your Mac, that is not completely on all Mac models. It depends what graphic cards are in your Mac models, but for instance the MacBooks 2012 and 13 both had that issue, and so this one is continuing the install 14%, and so no other action is needed. In a few minutes we should be greeted with the login screen, and then we can check if the root patches are installed. So here we are after we had the login, and OpenCore just detected that we booted off the USB drive. So if you haven't yet, that is the time where you can click OK and install the OpenCore Legacy Patcher version 1.3.0 to your disk, so that you can just boot from your hard disk. You should always use the latest version of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, obviously. Especially for macOS 14.2, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.3 is required for some Mac models. So we just choose the internal SSD, EFI, and we install that to our hard drive. And now we can just click Ignore to check if all the root patches are installed. We go to the top right corner, Post Install Root Patch, and here you can see all applicable patches already installed due to that USB drive method, which automatically applies that root patches. So we return to the main menu, we can close the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and we can just eject the USB drive. And right now we just say restart, and we'd like to go into the Apple boot selector and select the OpenCore from the internal hard drive. So we keep the Alt key pressed again to get into the Apple boot selector. And now you can see you have Macintosh HD. That would bring up the circle. Because we cannot boot Sonoma directly, we just say EFI boot. And if you keep Control pressed, this one changes to a circle, so it is set as standard boot option. And now we start Macintosh HD, macOS Sonoma 14.2 on the MacBook Air 2013. But now let's talk about the correct or the more easier way to update macOS, and what about all the other unsupported Mac models. So how well does macOS Sonoma 14.2 with the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.3 runs on old unsupported Macs? And these are my Macs that I try to test every new version as thoroughly as I can. There's an iMac 2011, MacBook Pro 2012, MacBook Air 2013. These are all different new generations of Intel chips. Then I do have a Mac Pro 2012, the old cheese grater, and a Mac Pro 2013, the trash can, which are Intel Xeon chips, but around the same age. Basically, on all these old unsupported Macs, macOS Sonoma 14.2 runs quite well without any major hiccups. But let's start one by one with the iMac 2011. So the iMac here is the oldest in my collection, and I'm quite ambiguous if I could say that it's worth and useful to install macOS Sonoma or Ventura or even Monterey on these old machines. Because these old graphic cards, if you have a stock iMac, are completely not metal capable, and metal is required for nearly every feature in macOS. For instance, I just tried to do a screen record by using Command-Shift-5, then that is an integrated feature of macOS, and I just clicked on record, and as you can see, it completely froze my iMac. So even a screen recording just kills the graphic card. So let's just fire this thing up again, and then we talk about the other features. All right, here we are again. Rebooted the iMac, and the second thing that, oh yeah, it was restarted due to a problem, I know. The second thing that absolutely doesn't work is Maps. So if I start Maps, the Apple Map Kit requires even a newer version of Metal 2, and so all you're gonna see is either a white screen here, or you switch to satellite, then you have a black screen. One thing that I noticed was when I open Safari, and for instance I open the Apple website and we click on the iPhone 15, then there comes that titanium animation, which is fine. If I now scroll down, and then this video feature here comes, this sometimes, as you can see, freezes completely. The whole Safari is frozen, the menu bar is frozen, but I still can move the mouse pointer. So it's like the iMac is taking a break, but it's not frozen as with the screen record. And now you can see it just starts, because it just continues working. And then here, that animation, when I start it again, just works. It just had a 30-second break. I don't know where this is coming from, but it is usable. My recommendation for 2011 Macs and older is Big Sur, because macOS Big Sur was the last one, for instance, where the Apple Map Kit was not required with the new Metal version. So in Big Sur, the maps are still working, and Big Sur is the first macOS that you can use the OpenCore Legacy Patcher with. Now let's go to 2012 and newer models, the MacBooks and the Mac Pros. So for all these 2012 and 13 models, I have very good news. I didn't find, besides one little flaws, running macOS Sonoma on these old unsupported Macs. The team of Dortania did a fantastic job creating that piece of software. And by the way, if you'd like to donate something for the Dortania team that creates the OpenCore bootloader, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and enabling the newest macOS on these old Macs, please consider donating a little bit for the team so they can buy new hardware or new old hardware for testing and continue their great job. And I really want to thank the whole Dortania team for making all this possible. If you haven't yet, subscribe my channel and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new video when there's a new macOS version, a new OpenCore Legacy Patcher version, and I have tested it here so I can give you good advice if you should update your old unsupported Mac. And if you have any questions or problems, consider joining our Discord server. There are nearly 800 members already discussing and helping each other with problems, with individual problems, or just give me a comment below the video if there's any question or problem, and I try to answer either on Discord or in the comment section of the videos and help as much as I can. But let's go short and quick through all those Macs. The MacBook Pro, it has two graphic cards and integrated into the CPU and an NVIDIA graphic card. Both cards work fine with macOS Sonoma 14.2. The MacBook Air, which has one generation younger Intel CPU, only an integrated graphics. This one also has graphic acceleration for H264, but on a 4K level, so a little bit faster than the 2012 MacBook Pro. The Mac Pro 2012, obviously this one has an AMD Radeon RX 580 upgraded graphics card, no problem at all, running all modern software, and has graphic acceleration for H264 and for HEVC on a 4K level, obviously because the graphics card is from 2017, and you can upgrade this one so much, and there soon will be another video all about the Mac Pro 2012, what kind of upgrades you can do, and if it is still feasible running that 10-year-old hardware or 11-year-old hardware right now. About the Mac Pro, I'd like to shout out to the Definite Mac Upgrade. He's such a great guy, having written so big and large and detailed guides about the Mac Pro 2012 and the Mac Pro 2013 that you can find in his blog. Speaking about the Mac Pro 2013, the old trash can, that is the only one where I found one little flaw with macOS Sonoma, but that was the same flaw that all of you already know, maybe due to my old videos, since Ventura, because these graphic cards in here cannot be changed. It's either a D300, D500 or D700 from AMD from 2013. It's only legacy metal capable, and for instance, if you go on a Maps app here, you will see that all the text doesn't have transparency. If you switch to satellite view, you can see that the text boxes are black because the transparency doesn't work, because the map kit requires metal too. At least the maps work despite the iMac 2011. Having said this, let's talk about the best way to update all these Macs if you are already running an unsupported macOS, like Ventura or maybe just the latest version of Sonoma 14.1.2, and you want to upgrade to macOS Sonoma 14.2. So here is the newest and youngest officially not supported Mac, the iMac 2017, that is officially supported up until macOS Ventura, that is just installed. And here I'd like to show you a different way how to upgrade macOS Sonoma, either from Ventura or from any version of Sonoma, where you might not need the safe mode boot with Shift and don't get a heart attack because the progress bar stops. So for installing macOS Sonoma 14.2, we need two things or three things, how you want to call it. At first, we need the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.3. That is important. You need 1.3 for Sonoma 14.2, and you need the appropriate Kernel Debug Kit, the KDK, for some Macs, and you find all links down in the video description. So for what Macs do you need? The KDK basically for Macs with an AMD or RT graphics card. So let's start with the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. The link down in the video description brings you directly to the releases page, and there you see all the releases of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and obviously we need release 1.3.0. When you scroll down, you find the changelog and everything. We just go to the assets and we download the OpenCore Patcher GUI.app.zip. So the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.3 is already decompressed, and we can just start it out of the downloads folder. Now it asks if you really want to open that. Yes, we do. It is a downloaded program, and there you can see the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 1.3.0. Now we need the second part. Obviously, we need macOS, the one that we want to install on this machine. And there you can just go down here to create macOS installer and say download macOS installer, and then it lists the last supported Mac OS versions that it supports. That is Big Sur in the latest version 11.7.10, macOS Monterey 12.7.2, Ventura 13.6.3, and Sonoma 14.2. If you want to download any other version than that, just enable the box here, show older or beta versions, and it just shows you all versions that you can download officially directly from Apple. We just don't want to use Sonoma Beta, we want to use macOS 14.2. So if we uncheck that box, you can see that is the latest official version. We hit download and then it starts downloading 13.4 gigabytes. That takes a while, and let's just skip that here in the video. So the next thing we need, as I said, is a Kernel Debug Kit. I know some Macs doesn't require that KDK, but it doesn't hurt to have it installed. So if your Mac needs it, you don't have to figure out, do I really need it, do I not? I would recommend just download it, install it to your Mac, and then it's there if it's needed. Okay, so that is the second link in my video description. Here, these are the releases of the Kernel Debug Kit. And now you need to know which version you want to download. How to know that? Just go back to the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, to the download macOS installer page, and then here for macOS 14.2 Sonoma you find the code 23Charlie64. And now we need to download the corresponding KDK 23C64. So when we go on the back on this site here, you see that is a Kernel Debug Kit already for a beta version. We don't need that. And there you see the Kernel Debug Kit 14.2 build 23C64. That is the correct one. We go to Assets and then we download that 846 megabyte Kernel Debug Kit DMG file. So this is also downloaded, and when we go to the downloads folder, you can see there's the KDK downloaded. That's a DMG file. That's easy. With Apple, you just do a double click and it mounts that file, and then you have a package file in here to install it. Just do another double click and the installer pops up. We say continue, 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 and agree to the terms, and then it says a standard install on the hard disk. We say install, we enter our password, and now it installs and takes about 3.5 gigabytes. That was successful. We can just close the installer. I recommend keeping the install file, and we close this as well. What we need to do now is we have downloaded macOS, so we can install that. We have downloaded and installed the KDK so that the root patch has the KDK. Now we need to install the OpenCore Legacy Patcher to that Mac. Boot from there, and then we start the installer of the new macOS. So we click Build and Install OpenCore, install to disk, and this iMac has a Fusion drive. What does that mean? A Fusion drive is like a small SSD and a large hard disk. But the iMac sees it as one disk, and there's a logic in there that tries to get the most needed files onto the SSD because it's quite fast, and the not so much needed files onto the larger hard disk, so that you don't need to buy a SSD, Apple-wise, but you have like the SSD speed for most of the files that you need often. But right now, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher detects both disks, obviously, and asks where you want to install this bootloader. I recommend using the SSD. And here you can see the Apple SSD is a 28 gigabyte, very small SSD on the main board of that iMac, and you have a 1 terabyte Apple HDD that is the large hard disk that is also in that. So we choose Apple SSD and then EFI. We need the password, and now OpenCore installs itself there. So now we can reboot and then select, keep the Alt or Option key pressed, and then we have to select EFI boot in the Apple boot selector. What will happen is that the OpenCore Legacy Patcher or the OpenCore bootloader is loaded, and then we just simply boot into Ventura. It's not needed for Ventura, but it's needed to have the Sonoma installer not say, okay, this is an unsupported Mac. Let's do it. So the only thing we now have to do is we go to the Launchpad and we will find install macOS Sonoma down here. If you don't find it here, go to the Finder and go to Applications, and you will find install macOS Sonoma in Applications. And then you can see here the installer pops up. We say continue, agree, agree, where we want to install it on the Macintosh HD. And now you can see that macOS recognizes the SSD and the hard disk as one drive because it only shows us one option. If the Fusion drive is broken with your iMac, there soon will be a video only about the iMac 2017, how to repair the Fusion drive. We say continue, we have to enter our password, and now it starts installing macOS Sonoma. That wouldn't have been possible if we were not booting from the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. You can try that, or if you made a mistake and you didn't boot the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, the installer here will say this model is not officially supported for Sonoma. So the iMac just restarted twice, and that progress bar here with a text below about 9 minutes remaining, that is the same progress bar that you saw in the beginning of the video with the MacBook Air 2013, where it was stuck right before that about whatever minutes remaining just appeared. So here with that iMac, with this method, just installing OpenCore Legacy Patcher on the drive, installing the KDK on the drive, and downloading the installer and start the installer from the macOS, I didn't experience any problems with a stuck progress bar. Not on my Mac Pro 2012, not on the Mac Pro 2013, and not on the iMac 2017 here. So this one said about 8 minutes remaining. Let's skip forward to the login screen. Here we are. The setup just started, and you can see mouse is working, so Bluetooth is working, so the keyboard also should work. And it just asks some question, like with any update, like analytics, we can just skip that, and we are in macOS Sonoma. And it seems like the Wi-Fi is not working anymore. Don't worry, that might be because of the drivers that Apple removed from Sonoma for the Wi-Fi module. But when we install the root patches right now, then Wi-Fi should be back and the drivers should be reinstalled into macOS. And a good thing is that we already installed the KDK, because with the root patches we might need the KDK, but without Wi-Fi we cannot download the KDK. If that happens to you, just get another Mac or another PC, whatever, go to the KDK homepage, download it on a USB drive and copy it here and start the installation before we do the root patching. So to install the root patch, we just go down here to downloads. Let me open this in the Finder and we start the OpenCore Patcher. There we go. And now we need the post-install root patch. When I click here, it says available patches for your system, networking, modern wireless. So that was the reason why we don't have any Wi-Fi. So let's start root patching. We have to relaunch that as root. We have to enter the password for that. It closes the old one and it starts the new one. Here we are again after the reboot, and you can see when I type in the password here, keyboard is working as well, the mouse is working, and let's check if the Wi-Fi is working. And when we go up here to the Wi-Fi, it is connected. We do have internet connection. Let's go to the Video Pro Converter and check if we have GPU acceleration. We go to the settings, go to the options, and here you see both is 4K resolution with that graphics card from 2017. So I hope I could help you a little bit installing the newest macOS on unsupported Macs, some tips and tricks. So if there are any more problems, just cruise around my channel. There are a lot of videos with more specific and detailed tips and tricks and solutions if you get stuck somewhere. And otherwise, give me a comment below in the video. I try to answer as soon as possible. Join our Discord server so that you can ask your question there, and there are nearly 800 people already willing to help and sharing their experiences. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Don't jump any updates, please. Give me some time to test everything here, and then thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.